I'd like to invite up, we're going to do a panel session, so I'd like to invite up on the stage Andrew Rechtman, Joe Hanna, and Simon Bray. If you gentlemen could come up and join me here. Okay? And if you could, Joe, if you could sit here, Andrew, just so your names are under you, the names are above you. And what we're going to do is have a chat around a range of hot topics that we're seeing within the PropTech and marketplaces arena. And you might go, well, why these guys, right? Why have they got an opinion that makes any sense versus someone else? So Joe, I've known Joe for about 15 years, and he's been heavily involved in everything from the Matula Group to CRM systems, and was a former Fairfax employee. Andrew is the former head of, it's a very long title, Chief Customer Product Officer and EGM, and Executive General Manager of the Residential for the REA Group. So we've got both sides of the coin here. And Simon Bray was the former, I'm going to get this all wrong, there's private property in South Africa, Matula Group, which is the common theme there, and now the president of REW in Canada. And through that journey, they've all had extensive experience in the PropTech space and in the marketplaces space in particular. And I thought what would be interesting is to then sit down and have a conversation on a number of different trends that we're seeing in the marketplace. And I sort of polled them earlier, so we actually had some topic starters to talk about. And I think it would be useful to kick off on where both Jonathan and Malcolm touched on, which is sort of this, there's this industry consolidation, there's the movement of owners of many of these portals. How do you see this, what I think was, I think Andrew, you and I had a call, you called it the current craze for M&A. So let's start with you. How do you sort of see this as, is it going to continue? Do you think this is going to be this merry-go-round of pass the parcel of some of these portals?
Yeah, look, I think we might be at the end of it, and maybe the last couple of days with REA withdrawing its offer for Rightmove might signal an end to the current frenzy for acquiring property portals. But when I think about the rationale, and the previous speakers laid it out quite well, there is still growth available for property portals, and it does make sense to buy into those businesses, whether they're brand new businesses that we just saw or they're existing businesses. So I think the frenzy will probably come down a little bit, but there's still a lot of rationale. And if you're a private equity owner, then maybe it's time to change your ownership structure. So I think a lot of the sales that we've seen from the private equity players recently have been more due. I'll switch microphones. Play that one. The sales that we've seen. It's not on. Let me try that. The sales that we've seen by one private equity owner to another private equity owner is probably a reflection of the first owner looking to cash out of their initial investment, and the second owner in a different cycle of their fund to actually grow that fund in the next 3 to 5 years. So probably the end of an era. In the next little while, there won't be as much activity, but the rationale is strong.
Joe, from your perspective, how do you see this evolving?
Well, I think what's interesting is if we take one of Jonathan's slides, which focus on Rightmove, and increasingly what we're seeing portals starting to do is offer more services specifically for the agents to manage their day-to-day business. And so what we're starting to see is the lines blurring between what we would traditionally call CRM, back office workflow solutions, and you guys would have seen this at REA back in the early noughties where you bought Real Hub, I think it was called. Was it called Real Hub? Hub Online,
Hub Online,
whatever it was, and we had the same thing at Fairfax where we bought a CRM. I don't know. We've got a couple of people here that are portals that own CRMs. Is that traditionally what we've typically seen is the lines blurred between portal businesses being pure lead generators, and then back office solutions like my old business in PropTech Group being very much focused around efficiencies within the agent solutions. Those lines are starting to blur more and more as agents, as portals try to capture more of that revenue. So what I mean by that specifically are things like seller leads, things like proposal generators, things like websites or microsites to show your current listings or you show your current agencies. These are all initiatives to get closer to the agents themselves and closer to the transaction.
Let's just follow that thought. Come on, guys. If we follow that thought a little bit further, the more tools that are provided to the agency to do their own marketing, do they become less reliant on this portal drug? And if so, how does that potentially impact the revenues of these portals in the future?
I'll answer this and I'll pass to Simon. I think they become more reliant because I think that two themes could present here. One is they become more reliant on the tools and the brand, so they log in to the portal brand day in, day out. What we love about our CRM business and the business that we sold last year in PropTech Group was the CRM was the first tool that the agent logged into and the last tool that they logged off on every night. So you had full control of the day-to-day experience of an agent's workflow. By a portal offering that type of solution, they're getting closer to the brand. What it also opens up is the opportunity to increase the take rate, because you can now get full exposure to the percentage of commissions and inject yourself in the workflow to extract those commissions. So you can start to introduce blended models, which is not just SaaS or paper list, but start to take an increased share of commission.
So Simon, how do you see that happening in the Canadian market and based on your experience?
Well, I think the one unique thing about my experience is that I've done this as an operator in a number of different countries with very, very different real estate ecosystems. And in all of those cases, there's this share of wallet opportunity with the agents. I think that's what, to come to your point, what's driving these valuations is really like this underlying market opportunity. We've got highly fragmented agent space that comes together under like a portal brand, because that's their access point to the predominant consumer market. So that's like a really powerful effect that's driving the valuation of the businesses. But of course, for those businesses to prove out the valuation over time, they need to grow more and more into the agent revenue opportunity that sits within that fragmented environment. So, I mean, we see that in the Canadian real estate ecosystem. You've got so many different players at so many different levels. The one that nobody talks about is the kind of board-sanctioned association level MLS, which is itself a software player. They're taking transaction revenues, they're taking subscription revenues. It looks a lot like portals, and funny enough, they're a pseudo-competitor to portals in those markets. You've got the website companies that take, the kind of listing and CRM and marketing revenues in a different way. And then you've got the portal players that are doing it in the more, I guess, traditional way in this conference example. But yeah, growing into that agent share of wallet is increasingly a multi-pronged project. I don't think you can just do it through the classic portal price increase on premium offerings.
Okay, let's explore a little bit further. It's a topic that came up under Malcolm's presentation, but I thought was quite interesting, which is if AI becomes more and more ingrained into the portal, into the experience, and we assume that AI's job, apart from the back office and making that far more efficient and effective, is to make the consumer experience better. One of the clear ways you make the consumer experience better is to give them the property they want faster to buy or to rent. Yet all these portals' business models are fundamentally built on inefficiency and making you search through lots of properties. How do you think that future looks like? And Andrew, you would have had to think about this one, right?
Yeah, I've had thought about this a lot. And in fact, before we jumped on the stage, I thought I'd go and check out something on the REA site. When I started REA in 2015, they promised their agents, you buy a premier ad, you'll get 10 times more views, 10 times more inquiries than if you buy a standard ad. Today, that says 2 times without AI. And that's because most people now search by saving a search, and it's a lean-back experience. You're sent notifications either on your phone or via email. So that process has already happened. I think Rightmove has seen that happen as well. AI will accentuate that, but there's 2 factors. One is that there's still opportunity to favour one listing ahead of another. And the other is that someone very, very, very smart at REA told me the day I started, you're not here to find buyers. REA's job is not to find buyers for properties. And I was shocked. What do you mean? Aren't we putting these out there and getting buyers? You're here to help the agent win their next listing. And that component can still be a significant part of the good, better, best pricing model. that even if the consumer uses AI to get to the listing more rapidly and there's less of that ranked search experience, you can still, as a property portal, provide a significantly better branding opportunity for the agent to advertise themselves and win that next listing, which in large part is a big element of the value proposition.
Before we go on, so could we please bring up the questions? If you guys want to help guide the conversation, we're going to bring up the questions here and they'll be on the screen behind us. So type away what you would like to think. Simon, how do you think about this sort of change in business model over time? And you're going to have to face it, right?
Yeah.
Head on, because you're running a business.
Yeah, first of all, I would just say the killer feature of property portals has certainly been the alert. In pretty much every portal experience, that property alert, the notification that comes to you about market matching listings, that drives the most re-engagement with the platform and the most re-engagement with the search. But where we perhaps disagree a little bit is the amount of listings that match your actual criteria or are available to you on the market at any one time is not an insurmountable number of listings. I think in rentals, you get an urgency problem, which is quite an interesting element that AI can solve. Is like, I need to know really, really quickly because I'm in contention with a lot of other potential tenants. In the for sale side, I think people still feel that the inventory opportunity is fairly low relative to my ability to scan through it and see it. And I do agree with you on the agent competition comment. That's what drives those premium depth product offerings. It's not so much that you're going to get a seller faster, a buyer faster through one of those offerings. It's that the agent is going to be seen more frequently in the search, and that's why the agents are buying those offerings. So I think that's going to continue. I don't think that changes as quickly as everybody thinks, and that's again to that underlying fragmentation of the market. Agents are competing with each other really often and really strongly in those markets. But yeah, I mean, AI and the nature of search could certainly change, and it's going to be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah, I think we're in this place where the portals trade off a couple of things. One is that the agent's desire for new clients, about branding. They're branding to get, as you said, to get the new vendor. But they also trade off FOMO. They convince the home seller that they should help contribute to the advertising, and REA pay a lot of money because there's fear of missing out. Fear of missing out on a buy. Now, the reality is, as you said, people are searching through all the listings. Not 100% of people who go to the website are buyers and real buyers. And secondly, if you're a real buyer, you're not in the market for 30 minutes to buy the house by the afternoon. You've got 2-3 months that you're going through every single listing. So how long can this sort of house of cards, I sort of feel like it is, right? It's not built on a real outcome. It's not like I'm Google and you go to the first search on the first page and you're going to get more clicks because no one goes to page 3. How long will this house of cards last?
I'll just say a couple of stats. REA 5 years ago would have said that 90% of the people who are browsing, 90% of the visits to their site are property porn visitors. They're not actually interested in buying. And so there's already a huge element of the visits to a leading property portal site, and I'm pretty sure it's the same in many other markets, that is not actively looking for a property. And the agents who are advertising on the site are actually looking to find their next seller. And I don't think that element has gone away. And in the time since I left REA, their visits have continued to grow 15-20% a year, even as the number of transactions in Australia goes down year after year. So they're still interested in coming to the sites, and the advertising value, because that's what classifieds platforms are, they're advertising sites, I think maintains its value to agents. But the way you extract that value will change.
So let's pull that string a little bit further. If we say that then property portals essentially become advertising sites for the agents to find their next listings, increasingly what we're seeing are that there's consolidation within the agency world. So particularly if I take Australia, Ray White now represents 13% market share by number of agencies. The number 1, number 2, number 3 supergroups, if we call them that, represent over 35% of the agency land within Australia alone. As AI becomes more sophisticated, their adoption of technology becomes far more sophisticated. Then if we think the role of an agent is to actually match a buyer with a seller, because they actually care about buyers, then that role almost shifts away from the portal, which still becomes just an advertising site to find your next listing, as opposed to providing a service for the buyer. What we're seeing, and we certainly did this at PropTech Group, was provided a whole bunch of tools to make it easier for the agent to connect a buyer with a seller once they entered their world. So once a lead came from a portal, we tried to keep them in our ecosystem, not send them back to realestate.com or domain, but to keep them within your world, to say, well, that there are probably houses that you don't know are coming up for sale, which haven't even been listed yet. Let's start that conversation. Let's keep that relationship between you and the agent going for as long as we can.
Actually, there's a question that's come up here which I think plays on this. Is given the majority of dominant portals are very disliked by their clients due to them having excised their pricing power over 20 years, isn't it very unlikely that they can now start to go into these sort of back office systems, workflow management, and the agents almost feel like they're giving away even more of their power to this one beast that has captured so much of the value in the past 20 years?
So the logic says yes, but reality says no. So increasingly, if you look back over the last 20 years, I remember growing up, I never saw an agent's face on a billboard anywhere. It was always the agency. Increasingly now, it's the agent marketing themselves. So where you see the traction of these tools is primarily agents, not agencies adopting it. And I think that's the difference between the shift in behaviour.
Yeah, I would totally agree with that. I think the North American market is a great example of that. So you have agents marketing themselves, brokerages really receding into the background as administrative, facilitative type of organizations. And so with that rise of the independent agent that needs to market themselves, that needs to have a suite of tools available to themselves, they're far less concerned about the kind of 3D chess that maybe some of the broader organization players would have. But again, that comes to your earlier point about consolidation in the space, because the people who do care about it are the brands that have 20% market share. And they're thinking about how they increasingly offer those services to their agents. And that'll be the challenging thing. I think when it comes to AI, there are two things that we talk about, like, oh, we might get a disruptive portal experience, and that'll take out the number one. I don't think those are the challenges that we're going to look at. I think it's going to be the agents being able to access buyers and, in fact, sellers more easily through tools that are not a portal-branded tool. Or it's going to be the completely changing search landscape that happens within the large players like Google that are going to have an impact on the kind of network effects that have fueled portals to the point that they are now. So AI, I think, will have a profound impact, but it'll have an impact in a different way to the way that we're perhaps thinking about it.
I'd like to challenge that a little bit. Because I was thinking about the other day, I mean, if you go to Canva, you go to all these products now, your capacity to do marketing yourself is so simple that if you're a digital ad agency, your client base must be shrinking quite rapidly, okay? Because you have to think about your capacity to, and you think about the channels that you're marketing through. I mean, it's not just a portal as a channel. There's social media channels, there's direct email channels, and so on. And that sort of guru type, black magic that had to occur before for the advertising to work well is now quite simple for anyone to do. Doesn't that chip away at the power of the portals?
Well, absolutely. That's the point that I was making. So agents, if they are independent operators, they're out there looking to get their next mandate, or they're out there to get the next buyer for their listing, they have increasingly got a wide pool of products to access to do that. And so to your point on the marketing side, there is a proliferation of AI, and not just AI, but just great marketing platforms for them to access, other than the portal. And then on the portal side, I think the disruptive impact, and we've seen it certainly in our business, but others that I talked to in the room, is in the last 12 months, the kind of SEO traffic and the volatility of that traffic to the platform has been great. And I think it's because AI is being at least contemplated in these large tech businesses. And I think to Malcolm's point earlier about the cars on the road, the SEO has certainly been one of the main highways we've driven down as portals, and that's going to be changing quite rapidly in the next 5 years.
So and maybe Andrew, you want to take this one, can a upstart come along in any of these markets, and you're based in Europe now, so you're seeing lots of markets, can they come along and upset the apple cart? Not in 30 seconds, but maybe over a 2 to 3 year period, just because they're more innovative, more in touch with what both the advertiser, the searcher wants, and providing a better service. Is that possible?
Yeah, I think if you're looking to become a number one portal from a number 2 or number 3 position, that takes very deep pockets, a lot of patience, and the type of innovation that you're talking about. So the question was asked, I think, earlier around, is CoStar a legitimate threat to, first of all, Zoopla and then Rightmove? You could ask the same in many other European markets. And yes, you can achieve that, but that is a long journey to hoe. Where I think there is a much greater opportunity is these small niche markets. And I love what the flat fee guys just presented and saying, let's go after a really small segment of renters and offer a great experience using AI. And I would sign up for that in a heartbeat as a renter here in Barcelona, which is a very tight market, and I'm sure in many other European cities. So if you pick a niche and go after that niche, fantastic. If you're trying to become the next Rightmove, the next Immo Scout, maybe more difficult.
Yeah, and I might elaborate on that a little bit further. I think it becomes more of a PropTech rather than a property portal watch play. So if we think about the property portals still being the generators of leads, I mean, the idea that a property portal would advertise your property on social media effectively is just preposterous, right? Why would a property portal be advertising on Meta? We see this in emerging markets in particular. As you know, we've got some exposure to Latin America and Southeast Asia, where Meta is quite effective. So that the agent directly advertising on Facebook or Insta in those markets delivers you really positive leads. So then reality becomes, where does the rubber hit the road? It's actually the back office tools more so than the portals themselves. And I think that's where the real disruption potential exists.
Actually, so the number one question that people keep asking, and it's directed at you, is could you give us some examples of how embedding CRM tools allows portals to increase their take rates?
No, basically, and that's because it's counterintuitive to think that a portal can provide a CRM that will be widely adopted, and there are 0 examples of it ever working anywhere. Zoopla is probably the closest example we have anywhere in the world, and they bought into 40% market share, and now are trying to consolidate and are quickly losing that market share. So the way that we're seeing it work is slowly, step by step. So it's not a CRM, it's just a proposal generator. It's now not just a proposal generator, now it's an AVM model that also then takes the next step of proposal. Now you can click this button and get your contract signed through our tools. REA is doing a really good job of slowly releasing products that just nudge away at what a CRM does. Compare that to Domain, which is outwardly and overtly trying to capture the agent services market, and it's a dismal failure, and I know we'll speak about this tomorrow. So the short answer is there aren't any good examples because it just doesn't work. What we see is, as an agent, I hate the fact that the portal knows so much about my business already. The last thing I want to do is give them everything, my workflow solutions. So it just doesn't work.
Andrew, when you were at REA, how did you think about getting deeper into that agency workstream?
At the time, we probably wanted to keep away from it, and I think we'd been burned, as we'd see Domain was burned by owning My Desktop, the leading CRM at the time in Australia. It's really hard for portal businesses to actually understand what a good agent workflow is. They're great at being property portals, but they're pretty crap at building products for agents historically. So we saw that as something that we probably wouldn't do ourselves, other than valuations, which was the one that we had really great data to do a better valuations product than anyone else. And the time, just as I was leaving REA, we did look to start building out that portfolio of investments in tools that helped agents generate proposals for to win mandates or help them through the workflow process. Going and buying a CRM was way down our list of priorities and probably something we would not do.
Okay, there's a bit of a follow-on question here. Is when portals offer tools, those tools should remain neutral. Listing syndication to competitors, for example, advertising to social media integration, and so on. Is this achievable in reality?
I think it is, but it is, to Andrew's point, like a different business entirely. We did this in the South African market a few years ago, where the portal went on a spending spree and acquired CRM into the company. It didn't thrive within the company for all the reasons that have been stated already. It got spun out into a separate vehicle, and then that vehicle, in fact, had some industry ownership in the vehicle. So it becomes almost like a funder model, but in real estate CRM. That comes with all sorts of other challenges, most notably your ability to increase take rate over time, pricing and changes, but you get broad industry adoption. And again, pointing to the North American market, the MLSs are just that. They're an association broadly of agency participants that invest through fees in the development of software and services for their businesses. So I don't think that the portal under the portal brand as a portal product would ever truly own that CRM opportunity. But to Joe's point, chipping away at what a CRM actually means is a very smart strategy. Take pieces of it and offer great quality marketing tools and do that for, what looks like low cost for a proportion of the market, and you do the same thing. You grow into the agent's share of wallet, but through those services.
So, a couple of last questions, and let's sort of switch to AI here. What are the best AI implementations you've seen already? Things that exist already that you believe are adding value in the consumer experience, or for a portal, or for a PropTech player?
That moment of indecision probably tells you everything you need to know. Certainly, what I think I'm most excited about, at least at this level of maturity, is what's happening in image recognition and image enhancement and experience enhancement that comes with all of that. Property portals are a source of inspiration for a lot of people in the real estate space. To your point, like maybe 10% are actually on there to buy a home. The rest are on there for an experience, and that experience does fuel a lot of the brand value and the business value. AI can play a big role in the entertainment experience around real estate. But beyond that, nothing groundbreaking yet.
Yeah, so from my side, clearly from a portal point of view, I agree with Simon. It is very much about content generation and visual representation. But from a workflow solution point of view, there are some really significant enhancements that AI can bring, in particular in the CRM space, where you have meaningful data signals that you can use. So unlike a portal where 90% are just seekers or tie kickers, as we call them, in a CRM point of view, matching someone's propensity to purchase, identifying a propensity to purchase based on real-world traits. Did they go to an open for inspection? Have they made an offer previously? When you look at a supergroup that has 15% market share and a data lake of all that data, that becomes really, really meaningful. So my ability to project who is likely to be a seller is far easier to do when I have all the data in the back end. Very hard for a portal to do, because all they see are the seekers. They don't see what happens once they speak to an agent. I think the really positive implementations of AI that I've seen are very much in the enterprise SaaS back office solutions of an agency, as opposed to the B2C solutions.
I agree that there's no outstanding AI implementation in the portal world that I've seen, but many of the things were presented earlier on today, actually portals have been doing without calling it AI for several years. So recommendation engines actually have been very well developed by most leading portals, the major players. In addition, there's lots of virtual staging capability that's been out there for quite some time. So I think it's going to be a case of evolution, using AI to improve the existing experience of users rather than some lightning bolt moment of revolution where it'll all completely change in one moment to the next.
Okay, gentlemen, thank you very much. I think what's been my walk away from this is that we're at this is literally Malcolm's red flag, walking down in front of the cars to say, hey, look, there's a car coming. And I think the interesting thing is that we're actually aware of what could be. And I'm not sure that all those people who were driving the cars were really thinking about freeways and electric cars and Teslas and so on. And I think the challenge for us here is that, over the next couple of days is to look at how people are thinking about AI, thinking about implementing it. Is it at the portal level? Is it at the consumer experience level? Is it at the back office level? Is it at the agent support level? And by thinking through each of those dimensions, they will create value and they will find opportunities just to make life a little bit easier, more efficient. And if you're running a portal, you want the agents to be more reliant on you. Let's just cut to the chase, right? You don't want them to do it themselves. You want them to have to be reliant on you for an audience. And if you're a PropTech provider, you've got a chance to disrupt the industry. Do something different. Chip away at what these traditional portals who are sitting on, lots of revenues, lots of data and information, but may also be afraid of changing their model, because changing the model does fundamentally go against what they've ingrained in the business for 20 plus years. I mean, it's very hard to be very innovative in a business that's been going for 25 years, doing fundamentally the same thing of selling a subscription, selling a premium property, selling a super premium property, selling a super premium property, and convincing the market that that's the way to go. So I think we're going to see a lot of evolution, not revolution, but evolution in this industry over the next 5 to 10 years. And as Malcolm said, when I'm not going to be doing this in another 10 years, maybe I will be, right? We will see a very, very different landscape in what's happening. So, gentlemen, thank you very much for sharing your ideas. And we're now going to have a break for, I was going to say morning tea, but it's the afternoon. It's an afternoon tea. So straight out these doors, afternoon tea is served. We will see you back here at 10 to 4 for the next, I think we've got about 5 sessions this afternoon.